Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about tires for power wheelchairs or manual wheelchairs, and I'll kind of differentiate between the two. There are a lot of choices out there, and when you are being evaluated for a wheelchair, it's good to know these differences, especially from the user's perspective, because it's a pain in the rear when you find out, oh, I chose the wrong tires. So there are two main tires, and that's the inflatable ones. I really stay away from those because even though they're softer in terms of terrain and when you're moving around, I really don't want to keep track of, do I need to inflate them? Do I not need to inflate them? What happens if I pop them, etc. So to me, they take a little bit more maintenance, and I would prefer some wheels that are maintenance free. But we will also talk about advantages and disadvantages later on of these two types of tires. So I forgot to mention the other tires that are solid tires. And all different kinds of tires. So let's talk about the indoor tires. So the indoor inflatable tires are usually smoother, lightly treaded, skinny, and usually people use those because they're softer and they're easy to drive around in. Then the other kind, and we're talking about indoor. So these tires are usually used for indoors. There are outdoor tires as well. Now they can be inflated or they can be solid. But let's talk about inflated tires. So medium knobby treaded, for wider, for better traction. So those are very knobby, because you're going outside and they're thicker. And of course, it's not going to be a very smooth ride, but you want to have that traction when you're outside. So pneumatic tires, they're commonly made out of rubber and require an inner tube, which is filled with air, of course, and recommended pressure of pounds per square inch or PSI. So you have to know the PSI for your different tires, just like a car. Who knew? If you want higher performance, a combined tube and tire, sewn up, or Kevlar, material used to make a bulletproof vest, yikes, tire with a high pressure tube, 180 psi, may be more desirable. I don't know. Puncture proof tires, and these are the ones that I usually go with. And these are the type of tires I went with for my power wheelchair. And I would go with these for my manual wheelchair as well. Because I don't want to keep track of, okay, do I need to inflate these? How much PSI? How does the tire look? And if I get a puncture out there, I just thought, no way. So we have puncture-proof tires, and those are the solid tires that are made of polyurethane. The rubber puncture-proof tires are similar to pneumatic kind, but the inner tube consists of solid material, such as foam, plastic, or rubber. So they're usually smooth for the most part or have very little treads on them. So if you use those, they're just as good. I just don't want to go through the nightmare of, inflating them. So pneumatic tires, pros and cons. More lightweight, of course. More shock absorbing, so you don't have that bumpy ride. Good traction on most terrains. Cons, high maintenance. Yeah, that's what I want to stay away from. Air insert has thin liner that can be easily punctured on sharp objects, and I'm always going over sharp objects. Maintain PSI since air tends to leak over time. Inner air tubes should be replaced every 3 months, 3 to 4 months. and replace outer tires 6 to 9 months when tread appears worn or cracked. So, ugh, I don't want to go through that. So, puncture-proof tires, pros and cons. Essentially, flat, free. Well, requires less maintenance. The same pair of solid inserts can be used over and over again. So that is great. Cons, they're heavier, which they are, less shock absorbing, of course, and replacement can be costly and difficult. So not really. Sometimes the insurance companies will cover something like that within those 5 years. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And I don't think, a repair, I don't think so, because they do dry up and they do start to crack, and you just have to replace them. But there's plenty of places that sell, solid tires. That's what we usually call them out in my world. So, but yeah, I would go with a solid tire anytime, because I just don't want to bother with, the inflation and keeping track and changing them and all that kind of stuff. I don't have the strength of my hands to be doing that. So that is the story on the tires. And you have to consider what are you using, your manual wheelchair for, or your power wheelchair. Because when I said to my therapist, I'll be using it indoors and outdoors, there are certain tires that are only used outdoors. Why? Because there's softer rubber. So if you use those tires, whether inflatable or the solid tires, it's a softer rubber and it's going to leave marks all over your house. So just remember that. If it's a softer rubber, not for indoors. It's going to mark up your floors and your carpet. So when I said indoor, outdoor, then we purchased some tires that could be used indoors and outdoors and did not leave marks in the house. So to me, that was really important. So I didn't want to have tire marks all over the kitchen or all over, no. So I have a friend who has that softer, it's a hard wheel, but it's soft rubber, and it leaves marks everywhere. So, and that would be very messy. If you're just going to use it outdoors, then great. Don't worry about the type. Just make sure they're knobby and make sure they're, tough terrain type tires. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I hope you all have a good week and be safe.